Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So really excited to share with you today a video we are going to record with Lou Stagner, Stat Maestro from Arccos Golf. For quite some time, we at TXG Club Champion have felt like Arccos is a really underutilized asset to all golfers. It's something we offer at our stores. We offer the free 45-day trial that Mikey's going to tell you a little bit about. But I think people are not taking advantage of the quality and detailed information that a system such as Arccos gives, and you are also one of those people, Michael.
I am. I like Arccos because for people that are far away but want to come and get fit by us, do it virtually, we can see all their club data, whether they play, you know, ideally have 10 rounds in the books, because there is some editing that needs to be done. It just helps the fitter understand a little bit more.
I couldn't agree more with that, and there's lots of platforms nowadays that help coaches and club fitters stay connected with their players, and that's one of the reasons and one of the sort of, you know, truly things that we value about Arccos as a partner is the ability to stay connected. And that's a word Arccos use all the time, a connected community. And that's something we always talk about with our client base is we want to stay connected to you post-fitting, post-purchase, when you've got your clubs. We want to make sure when you're out in the field that you're truly getting better, you're truly making those improvements. So today we are going to dive into my own profile a little bit about kind of what's been going on with me recently. We're going to look at a snapshot of that with Lou and going to sort of lean on his expert knowledge. I mean, Lou's an incredible resource when it comes to statistical-based knowledge and information, and I'm really excited to dive into this one with him.
Yeah, a little story you shared earlier. You chatted to someone over the weekend.
Yeah.
They don't have Arccos, and you said why, and they're like, oh, I don't believe in it. And you're like, why don't you believe in it? You're like, well, actually, I don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
This video, when we did it, there were some parts that we went through going, oh, I didn't realize you could dive even deeper into those stats. So little how-to video as well.
Technology can be a bit like that sometimes, that just because we don't understand something, we tend to push it away from us but when we are shown how to use something, we truly see the value in it. And really, I think this Understanding Arccos series that we're about to embark on is what truly will help you guys understand the value that you can gain from being an Arccos user. We are offering a promo code, Michael.
Yep, this QR code that's right here between these two pals is 45-day trial and free sensors. So give it a try. The reason the 45 days, they've said people that have used it in depth after 4 or 5 rounds end up signing on for the year because the data is just that much better. They do say it will reduce strokes right out of your game, you know, so it's a win-win.
Definitely. Use the technology, guys. Use the data. It's win-win for you. It's going to help you lower your scores. It's ultimately why we play the game. We're trying to improve, and if you're unsure about where the improvements need to be made within your game, Arccos is going to be the tool to help you with that. So whether you're a TXG customer, client, whether you're a club champion customer or client, you can access this trial at any of those from either of our stores. And even if you're not a user, you can access it just straight on the QR code, guys. But again, trying to create that community of connected golfers is the goal here. So really hope you enjoy the video with Lou today. And this is, as we said, the first of many videos in our Understanding Arccos series. So absolutely delighted to be joined by Lou Stagner from Arccos Golf. Lou, great to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Not at all. A bit of a different one with you today. Obviously, last time we had you on the podcast, and you know, we obviously discussed Arccos, you know, in detail last time, and obviously the benefits for users. But we wanted to do this video very specifically to highlight to people how useful Arccos can be from a user's perspective as a golfer, and what sort of data you can sort of take to help improve your game. We're going to kind of use my own profile as a bit of a sort of example today. And what I'd love to do is just look through some of the rounds I've had recently, and what do you see from those that a user who's inexperienced versus someone who's much more experienced, and what you would see. So, you know, why don't we, at a very high level again, just talk to what does the user, or what can a user sort of learn from Arccos data?
Yeah, there's a lot that can be learned from data, and what we're going to try to take away the most for people is what parts of the game they're good at and what parts of the game need some work.
Mhm.
And then as we shift our focus to the parts of the game that need work, that will typically tend to help us improve a little bit quicker. And I think it's useful to look at individual rounds, but it's more beneficial to look at a handful of rounds together. You're looking at your last 5 or 10 rounds, and a good example here would be if I were to ask you to flip a quarter 10 times right now,
Mhm.
you might flip it heads 8 or 9 times out of 10.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that heads is 80 or 90% likely to come up moving forward with a quarter. And what can happen when you look at individual rounds is we all have so much variance day to day in different parts of our game, regardless of your skill level, whether you're a 20 handicap or whether you're a tour pro. You can have huge fluctuations in each part of the game in any given round. Kind of going back to our quarter example, you could flip heads 9 times, you could flip heads 1 time. Well, the same thing's going to happen with your putting, your driver, your approach play, your around the green. So anything can happen in a single round. So I like to steer people more towards looking at their last 5, last 10 rounds to really start to get an idea of what things are looking like overall for their game.
Right.
Mm.
I know. I love that. It's a great way to think about it,
Yeah.
flipping a quarter, and what really you can learn from that. It's not necessarily like you say that one is more biased than the other. It's just it sometimes can be the way that it is. Lou, if you don't mind, we're just going to bring my own data page up. So, like you said there, Lou, let's go
To the
into sort of player, and let's
Yeah.
look at yeah, probably a 15 round average is pretty
Yeah, I mean, once you get up to 5 or 10, we can start to get some useful trends on what's going on with your game. So it looks like we have what did you pick? 15 rounds here compared to a
yes.
+2. That's pretty solid. So yeah, your hunches and your instincts, unless you've already looked at this, which I assume you probably have, you're
Yeah.
losing, almost 1.5 shots off the tee,
Yeah.
which as we go, and we're gonna move over one screen there to driving here in just a second, but I'm curious to see where you're losing that. I think you hit the ball out there a pretty decent ways. So my guess is you might be losing some on penalty shots. Knowing nothing else and kind of shooting from the hip here,
Yeah.
because I think
So,
you have pretty good club head speed, don't you?
Lou, it's went down a lot. I will say that.
Oh
So,
yeah,
yeah, it's went down quite a bit. I was always going to do this actually and try and go back a little bit further. If we go back 50 rounds, for example, and calculate that, I think that driving stat will change quite a bit if we give it a second here to load up. But yeah, so about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I made a really conscious effort to get my club head speed up, and I really, really was able to do that. I got it up to
yeah,
115, 120,
yeah.
and right now it's probably at like 108,
Mm.
5 to 108. So it's came down quite a bit. And the correlation for me as club head speed has came down is I've been losing strokes with the driver consistently.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You're almost an advertisement right now for
Mm.
speed training. Because
100%.
because I've seen you swing like on your channel, and I didn't realize your speed was down that much. So, and I've gone through something really similar to you where I had speed trained like crazy, and then for a number of reasons, it doesn't matter what they are, my speed was way down, and I've seen similar patterns that you've seen. So if you flip over to the driving page, the second
Yep.
page there, I'm really curious. And as you scroll down, you can just a little bit distance versus accuracy. So you're losing, 1.4 overall, and zero point 0.6 of that is accuracy, zero point 0.5 is penalties, and zero
Yep.
point 0.3 is distance. Arccos tries to quantify, where you're losing those strokes or where you're gaining those strokes and what parts of your driver are going to get credit here. I'm, it's interesting that accuracy is is leading the way for you.
Mhm.
Penalties are half a shot per round. So there's definitely something going on with your driver in addition to losing speed.
Yes.
And have you been working on that with somebody yet?
No, no, I really haven't. I've been probably more focused on other parts of my game. Probably the amount of golf balls I've hit recently would be with irons mostly, and looking at it from a strokes gain perspective again with the approach, it definitely is where my strengths are right now. I probably was someone who always hit, and obviously greens and regulation aren't everything, but I probably always hit 10 to 12 greens on a good day, and right now maybe hit more like 13 to 16 greens in a good day. So that's improved quite a lot. I'm definitely not giving myself the scoring opportunities. And if I use my home course as an example, Lou, we have uh, we have four par fives that if you hit it probably 300, maybe 310, you can get all of them with an iron. Right now,
Oh,
I
wow.
really struggle to get to
Mm.
any of them in two.
Yeah, yeah, and
Uh,
small greens.
and it's very small greens. So right now, the par fives are now truly par fives, whereas a few years ago they were, to be honest, pretty much more like four and a halves.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. And if you scroll back up here, I wanted to see. Yeah, so your penalties at half a shot per round. Have you been losing some balls a certain direction off the tee? Have you been noticeably hitting more penalties? Is that more than you typically were?
That one surprises me a little bit. I
Yeah.
don't lose too
Yeah.
many golf balls. That one actually did surprise me a little bit on the penalties. And even off the top of my head over the last 15 rounds, I can't really think of too many lost balls that I've had. But obviously, yeah, that's a little bit of a surprise to me. Which again, as we look at the value of Arccos, unearthing some things that you didn't. I would have said distance was a bigger
Yeah.
issue than penalty shots, but clearly the data is showing me otherwise.
Yeah, and you definitely have enough distance where swinging a 108, you are way way at the end of the bell curve as far as
Mhm.
speed goes. There's very few amateurs that are swinging 108 or above, so distance typically isn't going to be a problem for you, even comparing yourself to a +2 index.
Right.
So it's some other things that are creeping in and looking at your game. If you go back to your overall page, I'm also interested. Yeah, if you scroll down, you can look at your top three insights. So Arcos gives you, what to work on. And so
Yeah.
right now you're losing a stroke per round on 0 to 10 foot putts. That's baselined against a +2. So your
Yeah.
short putts are looking like they are causing you the most issues. This is
Yeah.
your 50 round average. I still think you're at 50.
So I
I'd be
think I came
curious
back
if you.
down. I went back down to 15.
Oh, you went back down to
Yeah.
15. Okay. So this is relatively recent, 15 rounds. Your short
So,
putts are costing you some strokes, your driving accuracy, and then, 10 to 25 foot putts. Anytime you see that, typically there's some lag putting issues that are probably going on there. That's probably speed control related, where you're maybe not getting that first putt from 20 or 25 feet as close as you should, and it
yes.
might be resulting in just that extra three putt every couple rounds. And those are the ones we want to eliminate at your level. You looking at your game and analyzing your game is very different than looking at a 15 handicap. You are looking for fractional shots here to
Yeah.
try and improve, as opposed to a 15 handicap where we're typically looking for bigger chunks, if that makes sense.
Hmm. No, that makes sense. And again, so I just actually had a tournament this morning before we came in, and Mikey called me on the way over. He said, "How did you play?" And I said, "I played okay." I said I shot 6 over, but I missed. And this is no word of a lie. And I'm not saying this because we're on here right now. I missed four putts inside 3 feet in the first 6 holes. Four putts.
Wow, yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty.
yeah.
That can be jarring. So if you go over to your putting page, one of the things you can get in Arcos is you'll get a breakdown of strokes gained. If you scroll down just a bit here, you're going to get that by putting length, and you're
Right.
going to be able to see where. So you look like you're a really good lag putter from downtown, outside
Yeah.
of 40 feet, outside of 25 feet. It's these short putts and these
Look at that.
mid-range putts that look like are causing you some issues, and um that that's a pretty important range right there because you are going to have a large amount of putts in that distance range.
Yeah.
And so dialing that in would be someplace I would look. Let's take a quick look at your approach play. Curious what that looks like. And one of the things I always go to with the approach play is overall pretty solid approach player.
Yeah.
But if you scroll down here, we're going to take a look at your strokes gained by distance. And, this is interesting. I was actually just looking at this with another player yesterday, and their numbers look nearly identical to yours. Really good overall ball striker, better than a scratch player. Inside of 100 yards was their biggest opportunity for improvement. And for them, as we went through and looked at their stats, what they realized immediately was they are hardly spending any time on those field wedges. And they're going to start changing their practice plan to incorporate more distance control and those partial wedges, partial swings, and working on that to drive that down. Because you're going to get a number of those, even though you said you can't reach a lot of your par fives. What that means is you're probably, hopefully you're advancing it down there as far as you can, but you're probably going to leave yourself a lot of those 50 to 75-yard shots on par fives. And if you're losing 2/10 of a stroke every time you swing the club, I mean, if you have 4 par fives and you're leaving 60 yards on each as an average, you're costing yourself nearly a shot per round on those shots. Assuming you're not reaching anymore because of your your decrease in distance. Hopefully that makes sense the way I said that.
It 100% does, and it's. And I think this is why I was so keen to do this call and this video with you, Lou, because I guess I knew some of these things, but now I have clarification on here. The data is telling me exactly what you just said, that or exactly kind of what I knew I was struggling with, which is I'm terrible with partial swings, not relative to the level of game I want to play. And then the putting from 3 to 5 feet, 6 to 9 feet, I knew was not nearly strong enough, and that definitely gives me some sort of good direction, because I think what we want to learn from this is, what do you go and practice? How do you go and spend your time after you have this information? How do you use it to obviously become a better player?
Yeah, I mean, for someone with a putting green in their backyard, his putting better improved there, Lou, or we have even bigger fish to fry.
Moved into the house, Lou. This is a new thing, this new putting green, but.
And I know that we're looking at strokes gained here, and that's where I generally typically try to steer people towards. Some people still want to look at some of the typical stats that we think of, and with putting, if you flip back over your putting real quick, we'll take a look at that. And when you get onto putting there and you scroll down by distance, you can flip over to make percentage, and if you flip over to make percentage, we're going to be able to see you benchmark. Was where strokes gained was. There's a little menu right there. There's a sub menu there. SGA is underlined. It's right above the graph. It says make percentage. Right there.
Cool.
Yeah. And so now you can start to see where you are, and you can see that you are 65% is the make rate from 3 to 5 feet overall. You're at 58%. 38% is the make rate overall for 6 to 9 feet, and you're red there. You're at 29%. That's a really big opportunity for you, and that's an area where you're going to have a lot of putts in that range. Those are either going to be par fives where you get somewhere down around the green and you're able to kind of get it close, or greens that you miss, and you're typically you're not hitting everything stiff. You're going to have a number of putts as a good player in that range for greens that you miss. So that's a big opportunity for you right there as far as make rate. And then if you flip over one more to the right, 3-putt percentage, we're going to get an idea. And so remember how we talked about the 3-putt percentage and how I said, probably, in that 10 to 25, you can see you're, a little bit high at 5% there from 15 to 24 feet. So there's definitely that's typically speed control, and if I hop back over to that make percentage real quick, sorry to make you bounce around, like you're a little bit low in 3 to 5 feet. You should be at 65%. You're at 58%. So there could be a combination of speed control and your short putts, those 3 or 4 footers that you're leaving after a 20-foot putt.
Yeah.
So those are the things I would be focusing on for you, and definitely some opportunities for you to trim a few strokes. Typically, and this might come out the wrong way, but typically this is a lot easier if you're a 10 handicap or a 12 handicap.
Right.
You are such a good player that we're talking about fractions for you.
Yeah.
We're talking about improving a half a shot a round, three-quarters of a shot per round, as your next jump. That's very different than going from a 15 down to a 12. We typically find 2 or 3 shots very easily for the typical weekend warrior amateur player that's going to look at these numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fascinating, and hopefully, as we try and kind of summarize this here, and the reason for diving into this and helping you guys understand Arccos is helping you understand the opportunities where they lie within your game. If you are going to go and spend time on the practice area, don't just go and hit the club you're most comfortable with.
Don't go blast driver. Clearly, go to the putting green or go to the wedge area.
Definitely work on some accuracy. Whether it be specific, maybe some. I actually asked my kind of coach about this recently, about some drills I can do that maybe simulate game-like situations on the range a little bit more, so I can have a more of a sense of kind of consequence when I'm. I sometimes struggle a bit with that. Our driving range is a big wide driving range, and kind of just solid contact is almost the objective at times. But obviously would like to make that a little bit more meaningful. Lou, I mean, we're going to kind of dive into this as a bit of a series, so I think that's a great starter for people to understand Arccos a little bit better, and obviously where the value lies. It would certainly be great if we can kind of have a running series with you on this, and that way we can sort of see the evolution of knowing these things, applying some kind of practice, and then coming back and taking a look at the data down the line. I think
Definitely.
maybe next time we'll dive into Mikey's stats.
The thing I love about this is we're going to get to hold you accountable now. So we're going to be able to track and see how you're doing here, and making sure you're putting in the reps on the things you need to work on. So 100%. You're close. You're going to be out there on the tour here soon, pretty soon here, Ian.
6 months.
I'll take qualifying for a few kind of provincial amateurs, and I've got the Canadian amateur qualifier next Tuesday, Lou. So I'm trying. Honestly, I'm excited now to have a week's worth of practice on the right things. I know my game isn't far away, and I'm going to grind a little bit more in some very specific things before we see you next time.
Yeah, good luck next week.
Thank you, pal. All right, Lou. Really appreciate your help, and excited to kind of continue this series and help you guys understand more about Arccos.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.